Hello, my name is Colin Mahler and welcome to Beaducation.com. We are going to be learning how to make some chainmail earrings today. Aren't they lovely? We are making the chainmail earrings with the European 4-in-1 chainmail pattern. Now this is the pattern that you see a lot of times in museums and whatnot with chainmail armor. So this is a very historically based pattern. The 4-in-1 in the European 4-in-1 refers to the fact that every single ring goes through 4 other rings in the pattern, except of course on the edges of our pattern where they don't. So the European 4-in-1 chainmail pattern is one of my all-time favorite chain patterns, partly because it is so versatile. My necklace is done with the 4-in-1 chainmail pattern as well as my ring, so you can make as well as my ring. So you can do a lot of different things with this chainmail pattern. We are just going to be making a pair of simple earrings today and attaching some lovely beads to dangle and sparkle from them. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we are going to go over today are the tools that we will be using to make this project. I use 2 different sets of tools basically. We're going to be using the bent chain nose pliers and the chain nose pliers to open and close our jump rings. And we will be using the chain nose pliers, the round nose pliers, and the flush cutters to do the wire wraps and hang our beads. So our first tool that we'll start with here is our bent chain nose plier, and as you will notice, it's got a bent jaw to it. The jaw on, I use the Lindstrom ergonomic bent chain nose pliers, and they have a relatively long jaw on them. This is not necessary for opening and closing your jump rings. You can have, a lot of the German tools tend to have a shorter jaw on them, so you don't need to look for a long jawed bent chain nose plier. That's just what the Lindstroms are. Our next tool is going to be our chain nose plier, which is just a straight tapered plier with a nice flat inside jaw. Again, I'm using the Lindstrom ergonomics. They've just got the nice fat handle. Since we will be having our pliers in our hands for so long, it's just a much more comfortable grip. We'll also be using our chain nose pliers to do our wire wrapping when we get to hanging our beads from our earrings. These are the round nose pliers, and they have a nice round jaw on them, and we will be using these to do our wire wrapped loops on our head pins to hang our beads. These are our flush cutters, and we will be using these to trim our head pins when we get to hanging our beads. These are the Tronex razor cutters. They're a nice fancy cutter, but any type of flush cutter will do. These are the materials that we are going to be using for our project today. We are going to be using jump rings. These are 4mm 18 gauge jump rings. They're sterling silver. We have a pair of sterling silver ear wires. They're French ear wires, and they have an open loop, so we can go ahead and construct our earrings and then attach the ear wires later. We will be using 24 gauge 2-inch head pins, 18 of those. And we have 3 different size crystals that we're going to be using on our earrings today. 4mm, 6mm, and 8mm bicone crystals. I want to talk a little bit about the size of the jump rings that we're going to be using for our project today. We are using a 4mm, and the 4mm measurement is taken on the inside diameter of the jump ring, not on the outside diameter of the jump ring. And be careful when you're shopping for jump rings. Different vendors will take different measurements. Some sell the jump rings by the inner diameter measurement, and some will sell them by the outside diameter measurement. So make sure that you know what you're ordering when you're ordering. These jump rings are also made out of 18 gauge wire, And the size of the jump ring that you use to make different chain projects is very important. It's very specific. The size of the gauge of the wire and the size of the jump ring, the relationship between those two is very important. And if you decide that you're going to make this earring in a thicker or a bigger ring, you also need to go up to a thicker wire. And if you decide that you're going to want to make these smaller, you're going to have to move down in jump ring size as well as a wire size. Now, the size of these jump rings, we have a little bit of play, a little bit of a room to play with. We can move down a little bit in size. We can use a 3.5 millimeter 18 gauge jump ring, and it will just be a tighter weave, or if we want a looser weave, we can go up to like a 4.5 millimeter 18 gauge jump ring. I recommend staying in the 18 gauge for the earrings. It's a good weight. It doesn't get too heavy. The 16 gauge does get a little bit heavy, and the 20 gauge might be a little too light, though it would be pretty as well. The last tool that you're going to need for the construction of these earrings will be some paper clips. You're going to want 4 paper clips, 2 per earring. And I like to use different colored paper clips. You don't need to, but I find that the different colored paper clips help me to keep track of what side of the chain that I am working on. The first thing we need to do is open and close some of our jump rings to get them prepared and ready to weave together into the chainmail. I use my bent chain nose pliers and my chain nose pliers to open and close my jump rings. Again, I use the Lindstrom ergonomics. They've got the nice fat handles, long handles on them, and they're very comfortable to keep in your hands for hours at a time. Now I hold my chain nose pliers in my right hand, my dominant hand, and I use my bent chain nose pliers in my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand. I use my bent chain nose pliers mostly for holding onto my jump rings and holding it stable, and then my right hand does most of the work, the motion. Now, your bent chain nose pliers, you want to make sure that they are pointed outward away from your hand. If you flip them around, then the tips of the pliers just get more in your way and they're not helpful at all. So make sure that the tips of your bent chain nose pliers are pointed away from your hand and from your other pair of pliers. When you're holding onto your pliers, make sure that you keep your thumbs up on the tops of your pliers and not down on the sides. Otherwise, your thumbs kind of knock into each other and your hands get in your way. So keep your thumbs up on the tops of your pliers and out of your way. We have 42 jump rings that we're going to be working with today. That gives us 21 jump rings per earring. And we need to start by opening 26 of our jump rings, and then we will go ahead and close the other 16. So we are going to open our jump rings. Now I'm holding my jump ring steady in my bent chain nose plier. And I want to make sure that I have a nice firm grip on my jump ring without having a death grip on it. If you squeeze too hard on your jump rings, they're most likely to just pop right out of your pliers. So a firm grip, but no death grip. And I'm going to hold this jump ring in my bent chain nose pliers, and the opening to the jump ring is straight up at a 12 o'clock position. And I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab the other side of the jump ring, and I'm just going to twist away from me and open that jump ring. Now I'm going to continue opening my jump rings until I have 26 of them open. As you're opening your jump rings, make sure that you use all of your plier on your jump rings as opposed to just the tips. If you're using just the tips of your pliers to open and close your jump rings, you're probably going to warp your jump ring out of being flat. And we want to keep our jump rings round and flat. Now I have all 26 of my jump rings open, and we will go ahead and close the other 16 of our jump rings, and then we can go ahead and start assembling our earrings. Now we're going to go ahead and close our 16 remaining jump rings, and we want to make sure that they are nice and tightly closed and that there is no gap between the two ends of the jump ring. This does take a little bit of practice, so if you have a little bit of space between the ends of your jump ring as you start, don't worry about it. As you get more practice, those gaps will go away. Now, again, I'm going to be holding my jump ring with the opening up in the 12 o'clock position, and I'm holding it steady in my bent chain nose plier. And I'm going to grab onto the other side of the jump ring with my chain nose plier. And I want to rock the two ends back and forth past each other. So anytime you're opening or closing anything round, you always want to rock it as opposed to pull or push. So I'm going to grab the other end of this jump ring and I'm going to rock the two ends back past the point where they meet. Now you need to apply a very gentle inward pressure as you're rocking these two ends back and forth. There is a tiny little gap between the two ends of the jump ring and you need to close that gap. So very slight inward pressure as you're doing this rocking. Now I'm going to rock back again. And again, I'm applying that very gentle inward pressure, trying to get those two ends to meet. Once I get those two ends to meet, I'm going to rock back and forth a little bit just to line up the two ends of the jump ring so that they are nice and flush. Now, when I am opening and closing my jump rings, I'm always looking at the jump ring from the top, but I also want you to check the side as well to make sure that the two ends meet and that you haven't pushed the two ends past each other. Now you shouldn't be able to see the seam of your jump ring. The seam of my jump ring is right there, but I have a nice closure on it so you can't really see where that is. Now I have finished closing the 16 jump rings and we are ready to go ahead and start assembling our earrings. Okay, now we're going to start assembling our earrings. And we are going to start with one open jump ring, and we are going to take two of our closed jump rings and slide them onto that one open jump ring, and then we're going to go ahead and close up this open jump ring. Now I want to take a paper clip and attach it to the single jump ring. And make sure you get that all the way on that paper clip so it doesn't slip off at an inopportune moment and you lose your pattern. Now that I've got my jump rings attached to the paper clip, I need to get them into position so I can start weaving the chain. And I am going to take my non-dominant hand, my left hand, and I'm going to pinch just under the two jump rings that are furthest away from the paper clip. And I want to make sure that these two jump rings are standing straight up. Now I'm going to take these two rings and I'm going to spread them apart, and I'm going to come from behind the two rings and I'm going to just kind of push them open. And I want to make sure that they lay flat. Keep in mind that when this chain is finished, it's going to be a flat piece of chainmail, so you want to make sure that your rings are laying flat. You also want to make sure that the back of the center ring is behind these two rings, which I call mouse ears. So the mouse ears should be in front of the top of this center ring. Now this chain has a front and a back to it, and the side that we're working on right now is the front. If you should drop this and turn this chain around and start working on the back side, it will not hold itself together. So you need to make sure on this first section of chain that you are always working on the front side of the chain. And you can't really tell which side is the front right now, but you will be able to tell because the top of this jump ring will be on the back side of the chain and the bottom of this center jump ring will be on the front. And as we move on a little further, you will be able to see a little more how to tell whether you're on the back or the front of the chain. Now I need to grab an open jump ring, which I'm going to do with my chain nose pliers, and I want to make sure that I grab that open ring in the center of the ring as opposed to grabbing it from one side or the other. That will make it easiest to link it through. Now I want to take this open jump ring and I want to link it through these two mouse ears. And I am going to take the right hand side of my open jump ring and I'm going to link it through the right hand mouse ear. And I'm going to kind of tilt the ring over until I can get the left hand end, the left hand side, through the left hand mouse ear. And I have now successfully linked that through. Once you have this successfully linked through, these two mouse ears should remain open and flat. If you've linked this ring through incorrectly, which I will do very quickly, both of those mouse ears will just fold together like so. If this happens, take this open ring out and try it again. Spread those rings open. And the right hand side of this open jump ring through the right hand mouse ear. Tilt until you get the left hand side of the jump ring through the left mouse ear again. Once you've got this jump ring linked through here, you're going to want to close it, but not before you add two closed jump rings onto that one open ring. And they can go on both sides or all on one side. It doesn't really matter what side you link them on. Then you're going to go ahead and close this ring. And once you get that ring closed, you can go ahead and spread open those two closed rings that you just added, like so. So now that you have this second set of mouse ears spread open, and again, you're on the front side of your chain, which means that the top of this center ring is pointed away from you, and the bottoms of these center rings will be pointed down towards your paper clip. Now, if you're having difficulty with the first way that I showed you to link this center ring through, I will show you another way. There's always more than one way to do things. I'm going to grab another open ring with my chain nose pliers. And this time, instead of coming from the front, I'm going to come from the back. So the left hand side of my open jump ring will go through the right hand mouse ear. Then I'm going to turn that ring around. So again, the left hand side of that ring will now go through the left hand mouse ear, like so. And again, the opening of this jump ring is pointed away from you, and the bottom of this jump ring should be pointed at you and down towards your paper clip. Now that you've gotten that new center ring linked in there, you're going to want to add two closed jump rings onto that open ring, and then close. And go ahead and spread out that pair of mouse ears. Again, the bottom of this ring and all the center rings will be pointed down towards your paper clip. That tells you that you are in fact on the front side of your chain and not working on the back. Now once you've gotten this far, you're going to add one more center ring and another set of mouse ears. So you're going to end up with a total of 4 sets of mouse ears on this center section of our earring. Now that you have your 4 sets of mouse ears, you're going to add one last center ring. So you're going to take your open jump ring and hook it through this last set of mouse ears, like so. And you can go ahead and add your second paper clip onto that very last ring before you go ahead and close it up. Now once you have attached your second paper clip, you have finished the center section of your earring. Now that we've completed the center section of our earring, we need to add the sides to it to make the diamond shape that we're going for. So I'm going to start on the right hand side, and I want one open jump ring. And I'm going to take this open jump ring and I'm going to go down through the first 2 jump rings on the right hand side. Once I have this jump ring linked through, I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now I'm going to add another open jump ring on this side. This time I will be going through the 2nd and 3rd jump rings on the right hand side of the chain. And again, I'm just using one motion to go down through both jump rings. Once I have that jump ring hooked in, I'm going to go ahead and close it. Oops. Now we're going to add one more open jump ring. Now this time going through the 3rd and the 4th jump rings on the right hand side of the chain. And again, once you get that linked in there, you're going to go ahead and close it up. Once you have these 3 rings attached into the right side of your earring, you're going to go ahead and add one more ring on the right side, and you're going to take an open ring and you're going to go through all 3 of those rings that you just added on the right hand side. And again, you're going through all in one motion. Oops, and once you get that ring linked in there, go ahead and close it up. And now you have one side of your diamond finished. Now once you've gotten the right side of your earring finished, we're going to flip the whole thing over and do the other side. Now if you're left-handed, you may want to work on your left-hand side. I'm right-handed, so I like to work on my right-hand side. Now on the right-hand side, I had started adding these rings from the bottom up. On the left-hand side, or well, now that I've flipped the chain, I'm going to start from the top and go down because these rings are in a different orientation than the rings were on the other side, because I've now flipped the chain over. So I want to repeat what I did on the other side on this side. So I'm going to take an open jump ring, and again I'm starting from the top and I'm working my way down, and I'm going to be linking this open jump ring through the 1st and 2nd rings on now the right hand side of the chain. And once I get that ring linked in there, I'm going to go ahead and close it. So now that I've gotten that first ring linked in there, I'm going to take another open jump ring and I'm going to link it now through the 2nd and 3rd rings on the side of my chain. And once I have those rings linked on there, I'm going to go ahead and close this ring. And now I'm going to add one final open jump ring. going through the 3rd and 4th rings on the bottom of my chain. And once I get that linked in there, I will close that ring up. And now we have that last ring to the last open jump ring to attach to link through all 3 of these jump rings. And once you've gotten that ring linked on there, you are finished. Now we have completed the base of our first earring, and you are going to go ahead and do this one more time so that you have a pair of earrings. Once we have completed the chainmail base of our earrings, we're going to go ahead and start to wire wrap our beads so we can go ahead and attach them to our earring. I have gone ahead and put all my beads on their head pins, and this is the pattern that I use for most of my chainmail earrings. I have the 8mm bead is going to be at the bottom center of our earring, flanked by 2 4mm, 2 6mm, and another 2 4mm at the very corners, and then in the center of the earring I will hang 1 4mm and 1 6mm. And these are all bicone crystals in tanzanite. So now that we've got all our beads on our head pins, we're going to do a quick wire wrapping demo, just in case you don't know how to wire wrap already. So I want to take my bead on its head pin, and I'm going to be using my chain nose pliers, my round nose pliers, and my flush cutters for this wire wrapping. So I'm going to start with my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to grab my head pin with the tips of my chain nose pliers directly above my bead. There should be no space between my bead and my tool. And I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to push that wire over the edge of my pliers, making a 90-degree bend in my head pin. Once I have my round nose pliers in place, I'm going to go ahead and make my loop. Now keep in mind that depending on where you have your head pin on your round nose pliers is going to determine the size of the loop that you make. So just make sure that you are going to make a loop that is big enough to slide over an 18-gauge jump ring. So I'm going to grab the end of this wire and I'm going to pull it up and over the top jaw of my round nose pliers, and I'm going to bring it around as far as it will go. And now I cannot continue making a full loop because the bottom jaw of my round nose pliers is in the way. So I'm going to switch the jaws of my round nose pliers. I'm going to slide my pliers out of the loop, and I'm going to replace the bottom jaw of my round nose pliers inside my loop, and the top jaw will sit on top. I'm going to grab the end of this wire again and continue pulling around the bottom jaw until I have a full loop, and I'm going to stop when this wire is at a 90-degree angle to the base wire. So now I've taken my round nose pliers out of my loop, and I have grabbed a hold of my loop with my chain nose pliers, and I want to hold that loop so that it stays nice and flat as I'm coiling this wire around the main wire. I'm going to grab the end of this wire and I'm going to wrap it around the main wire, and I'm going to wrap all the way down till I get to the bead. Oops, like so. So now that I'm done wrapping, I have this excess wire that I need to cut off. So I'm going to get in here with my flush cutters and I am going to get in with the tips of my cutters as close as I possibly can, and I'm going to cut off the end of that wire. And I have this little tiny nub in here that's sticking out straight off my wrap, and I want to go ahead and curl that down with the rest of the coil. So I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. Just going to very gently squeeze down the end of that wire with the tips of my pliers so that it lays down with the rest of my coil and I don't have any little nubbins sticking off the side. And there is my first wire wrapped bead. And you're going to go ahead and continue on and wrap all the rest of your beads for your earrings. And once you have all those beads wrapped, we'll go ahead and attach them to the earring. Now before I attach my beads, I'm going to go ahead and replace one of my paper clips with an ear wire so I know which side of my earring is up and which side is down. Now when we go to attach our beads, we need to make sure that we're working on the front side of our chain. Now notice that I have used two different colored paper clips on my chain, and that's going to help me somewhat to remember what side is the front. I started with my yellow paper clip and I finished with my purple one, and I want to make sure that this very center row of rings is all pointing down towards my yellow paper clip. Now the reason this is important is so that when we attach our beads they all hang nicely in this center row of, we're going to attach a couple beads on this very center row of rings, so we need to make sure that the bottoms of these rings are pointed down so that the beads will hang properly once they're attached. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up my ear wire and get my ear wire onto my earring. Now to do that I need to first open the loop on my ear wire, and I'm going to use my chain nose pliers to grab onto the loop. I'm going to hold onto the ear wire so that it stays steady, and I'm just going to twist away from me and open up that loop. Now I'm going to go ahead and place my ear wire onto the very top ring on my chainmail earring, and I'm going to go ahead and put the ear wire on before I take this paper clip off. What tends to happen with this type of chain is that these end rings, if they don't have anything to secure them, will flip, and it tends to be a bit of a challenge to get them to flip back around where they belong. So keep your paper clips on your earring until you have something else to put on those jump rings. And also, again, one more time, make sure you're working on the front side of your earring, and to check that, you want to make sure that this very center row of rings, the bottoms of them are pointing down towards my yellow paper clip, which is the paper clip I started with. So now I'm going to take my ear wire, and I'm just going to slide it onto that very top jump ring. Now I'm going to go ahead and close up my ear wire. So again, I have my chain nose pliers and I have grabbed onto the loop of my ear wire, and I'm just going to twist it back closed again. And now I'm going to go ahead and remove that purple paper clip. So now I've taken that top paper clip off and I have my ear wire in place, and I'm ready to go ahead and add my crystals. Now I'm ready to go ahead and start adding all my beads, and I'm going to start with my 8mm bead, which is going to go on the very bottom center jump ring where my other paper clip is attached. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this jump ring, take the paper clip off, and I'm just going to slide my bead onto that jump ring and close it back up again. And there is my first bead. The next beads we're going to add to our earring are going to be two 4mm beads, and there will be one on either side of the 8mm bead that we just added. So we're going to be attaching one 4mm bead to this jump ring here, and one 4mm bead to this jump ring here. So I've gone ahead and attached my two 4mm beads on either side of my 8mm bead, and the next beads I'm going to attach are going to be two 6mm beads, again one on either side of the 4mm that I just attached, and they will be going on this ring here and this ring here. So I've just added my two 6mm beads here and here. And my last two beads that I'm going to add on the edge of my chain will be attached to the very corners, and I'm going to attach two 4mm beads to those corner jump rings. Now I have attached all of my beads along the bottom edge of my earring, And I'm going to go ahead and attach 2 more beads in the center of my earring, one 4mm and one 6mm. Now you don't have to do both beads, you can do one or the other if that's too much for you, or go ahead and do both or neither. I like to put a couple of beads in the center of the earring. It kind of breaks up all this silver and just brings a little more color into it. Now I've gone ahead and removed the beads that I placed on the center of the earring so I can show you a little bit better which rings we are going to be attaching these to. The 4mm bicone is going to be attached to this very top ring, the same ring that the ear wire is attached to. But when I go ahead and open this ring, I want to make sure that I open the bottom of the ring as opposed to the top of the ring, because I want the bead to hang down on the front of my earring and not back behind it. And the next bead will be the 6mm bead, and that will just go on the next jump ring down, so the second jump ring down from the top in the very center, and I'm going to hang my 6mm bead from that one. And here you have your completed pair of earrings with their crystals dangling and looking beautiful. And here they are. So enjoy your beautiful new earrings, and you'll probably want one in every color, and have fun wearing them. Now here are a few different samples of the chainmail earrings with different types and sizes of beads on them. I really want you to try and have a whole lot of fun with the beads. You know, you can mix up the colors, different sizes, different shapes of beads. These are the earrings that we made today with the Swarovski crystals, where we use the 3 different sizes of crystal. So definitely feel free to mix up the colors. You can of course use all one color. You can use a variety of different colors. When you're making these earrings, just be sure you should always have a heavier, larger bead on this very bottom center ring, just to give it the chain enough tension to hold the pattern steady. And then smaller beads on the corners are always a good idea. And you don't have to use the 3 different sizes of crystals. You could use 3 6mm beads instead of the 2 6s and 1 8, or whatever. Feel free to play with it and mix it up and have some fun. Now these are my garnet earrings, and on these I used garnet briolets and faceted rondelles, and again I used the larger beads in the very center and a larger one in the middle. And of course you can either skip this center bead, or you can always add a rondelle that's a little bit smaller if you don't like how much stone is there in the center. These are the garnets. And then we have these chrysoprase earrings, and these beads are a little bit larger, and as you can see they're rounded. I have 2 different shapes on here. There's the round coins and then the faceted rondelles as well. So definitely feel free to play with the beads. Don't feel like you have to follow the pattern that I've set here with the crystals. Play with it and have some fun. Well, I hope you had a wonderful time making your chainmail earrings, and don't get frustrated if the closures on your jump rings aren't perfect. The more you practice, the better you get, so just keep making those earrings and have a wonderful time with them. Make 1 pair in every color, don't forget. And keep checking back with Beaducation.com, because we'll be having lots more wonderful classes and teachers as time goes on. Thanks a lot. Bye.